So I want to share an experience that actually was a long experience over the several months that a resident was here at Quiet Oaks. And it first started on a weekend when we were getting ready for the morning, and we looked out the window and there's this beautiful pileated woodpecker sitting outside the window on a tree, and it was pecking away at the holes. And we watched it for a good 15 to 20 minutes and kind of started where the pileated woodpecker became almost a daily ritual with the resident. And over the months we kept watching it and always would just see one at a time. And then towards the spring we ended up seeing 3 pileated woodpeckers at one time, and he was so excited about that, and we had to share it with most everybody around. And then several months later, when we were doing the memorial service for this gentleman up in the cottage, I was telling the story about the pileated woodpecker. And after I told the story, one of the people in the audience was looking out the window over my shoulder and said, "You need to see this." And so we kind of stopped and looked, and the pileated woodpecker was sitting on a branch right outside that window. And it was a pretty powerful experience, knowing that the woodpecker came to visit as we were honoring this resident at that time.
I was working overnight, and our residency was kind of leery about being alone because she was nervous all day. And when I got in there, I sat in a recliner for a while, and then she had asked me if I could lay in bed with her. And so I laid there, and all of a sudden we were both laying there, and she sat up in bed, and I sat up with her, and she said she was hearing all these noises, as I was, and I wasn't sure if she was hearing them or not. And she said, "Are you hearing those noises?" I said, "Yep." And she said, "Look over to the side." And I said, "Are they coming from over there by the light?" I said, "Yep, they're coming by the light." And she said, "Well, let's call the nurse." And I thought, what a great idea. And then I thought about it for a couple moments, and then I thought, oh my God, I am the nurse. This is not going to work out.
My fondest memory about one of our residents was one of our first, actually. She'd been here only for a short time, and was already won the hearts of almost all of us that had been here. Maybe at her second or third day, she called me into the living room where she was sitting with some family members and asked me a question. I said, "What is it I can help you with?" And she said, "Well, I'm very used to having a nightcap every evening." I looked at her kind of funny because nobody had ever asked about a nightcap before. I said, "Well, what are you used to having?" And she said, "I like to have a glass of Canadian Club and water every evening, about 4:30 or so before dinner." I said, "That'd be great." And she says, "Well, also I like to make sure that I don't like to drink alone, so I'd like to have a drink with me every evening at 5:30. My immediate reaction was, in my mind, how am I going to explain being a treatment program here at Quiet Oaks after a few years? And then I thought, well, I think I can make this work. So I sent Mary, my wife, down to the liquor store down at the end of the road of 136. She came back with a bottle of Canadian Club. Every evening then about 4:30, I'd pour a glass for her and a glass of apple juice in my glass, and I'd sit down with her about a half hour before dinner. At those different meetings, we would have conversations for everything from religion to politics, and ended up being a very wonderful experience for both me and hopefully for her. Something I hope to do again someday in the future. You really get to be close to somebody over a drink right before dinner.
And then I guess I'll share one more short story. It has to do with our magic tub that we have in the spa room. And this tub is where you have to wave your hand around the controls, and they go on automatically like that. And so we had a resident in the tub, and the spouse came in to visit in there to see how that was going, and the spouse was at the head of the tub there and accidentally waved the hand over the controls, and the shower wand went off, and I ended up being in the path of that shower wand and got totally soaked. and everybody is just kind of staring, not knowing what to do in the tub room. And so I had to go over and turn it off, and I was just dripping wet, and they were laughing, and the resident had the biggest smile on his face. He thought it was great. So the next week when we got into the tub, I decided that I was going to dress up in with a rain umbrella and a rain suit from head to foot and goggles and rain shoes. And the other bath aide came, and she was dressed up the same way with the goggles and an umbrella, and we went into his room beforehand, and he got the biggest smile on his face as we were all dressed up. So going into the tub room, I stayed dressed like that just in case he decided to get me wet again. So.